Today's lesson, we're still in numbers to 10,000. And as I said, we are going to be rounding again, but today we're rounding to the nearest 10. So our lesson's going to be very, very similar. We just have to now look at our tens place when we're rounding. I want you to go ahead and collect your materials. So again, you're going to need a number line and something to write with, a marker and a dry erase board, or a pencil and a piece of paper. Go ahead and pause the video and gather those materials. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about the fans at the baseball game. There were 2,738, so we've been working with that number a lot. We rounded to the nearest 1,000 and we got 3,000. And then when we rounded the number to the nearest 100, we got 2,700. So now we're going to round to the nearest 10. So I want you to go ahead and write down this number, and we're going to mark it on the number line. So remember, you're going to have your starting point and your ending point, and then what else? That's right, your center point. Okay, same thing. It's the same thing over and over. It's just different numbers we're going to be marking on here. So we're going to be rounding to the nearest 10. So I want you to think about what numbers you're going to mark for your beginning point and your ending point. So we're going to start with this 10 and go to the next 10 over here. And our midpoint is now what? If we're skipping by 10, I want you to think about what this little hash mark is. We had talked about it was worth 100 when you were doing the thousands place. But when you were rounding to the hundreds place, it was worth 10. So now we're rounding to the tens place. So I want you to figure out what each of those hashes would be. So I want you to go ahead, now that you know how to round, and you're going to pause the video. You're going to write down your beginning point and your ending point, and then you're going to mark this on the number line and also your center point. And then I challenge you to try to round it to the nearest 10. So go ahead and pause the video and try that. How did it go? Okay, let's see. We're going to do this together. We're going to take our number line. We're going to start in the tens place. Okay, so the beginning 10 is 3. The next 10 is 4. Okay, so now we're going to figure out what numbers to start with. We talked about after we change or keep our place value that we're rounding to, all of these numbers become a 0 behind there, right? So that means the tens are 30 and the next 10 is 40, right? But we're talking about 2,738. So we're going to keep these numbers in the front so that now we have 2,730 and 2,740. Does that make sense? Because 2,738 is in between 2,730 and 2,740. So I'm going to go ahead and write those on my number line. Okay, and then we're going to write our midpoint here. Now, did you figure out what these skip by? Between here and here is 10, right? 30 and 40. So if there's 10 marks, we would skip by 1. That's right. So this would be plus 1 or skipping by 1. So let's see what this center point is. Let's skip 2,730, 2,731, 2,732, 2,733, 2,734, 2,735, 2,735. Is that true that 5 is in between a 10? Yeah, it's half of 10. It's 5. So now that we have that written down, let's look at where 2,738 goes. Well, I think it's bigger than 35, right? 38 is bigger than 35. So let's keep counting. 2,736, 2,737, 2,738. So there is my 2,738. It's right here. Now, same thing. Is it before or after our center point? It's after, so it's closer to what number? That's right, it's closer to 2,740. So this number rounds to, or estimates to, 2,740. Very good. Okay, like we did yesterday, we're going to practice a lot today. Okay, so we're going to try some rounding to the nearest 10. So let's look at our number line, and our number is 1,325. We're rounding to the nearest 10, so remember, underline that number. It's 2. So our first 10 is 20, and our second 10, or the next 10, is 30. And then we keep these numbers the same in the front because we're still talking about 1,325. We're not just talking about 25. We're talking about this whole number here. So our beginning point and our ending point would be 1,320, 1,330. Now, do we know our center point? Yes, our center point would be 1,325, right? Because when we count or round to the nearest 10, we're counting 1 in between each jump. So each of these counts for 1. So now, where's 1,325? It's my midpoint. I already have it marked. It's right here. Is it true that 5 is half of 10, or 5 is right in the middle? Yes. So now what do we do? Which one's it closer to? We talked about this a few lessons back, that this number is right in the middle. So if the number is exactly your center point, we always round up. We call that rounding up. So we always say it would be closer to the bigger number. Okay, so this number would round to 1,330. That is the number it's closest to. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try this number, 4,958. I want you to try this on your own by pausing the video, and I want you to write what your beginning and your ending points are and what your midpoint or center point would be. Okay, now remember, we're rounding to the nearest 10, so make sure to underline your digit here to the nearest 10. Go ahead and pause the video and try to put those numbers on your number line. Okay, so like we talked about, this 5 is either going to be 5 or 50, or it's going to go to the next 10. So this is either going to be 50, and the next 10 is 60. And these numbers do what? That's right, they stay in the front because we're still talking about 4,950 and 4,960, because those are the two numbers that this number would be in between. So we can now mark those on our number line. So this would be 4,950 and 4,960. And my center point is what? Well, between 50 and 60 is 55. So it'd be 4,955. Okay, that would be in between those two numbers. Now, we talked about how these skip by 1. So where would 4,958 go? It's bigger than 55. How many bigger? It's 3 bigger. So it's going to go right here. 4,955, 4,956, 4,957, 4,958. Now all we have to do is look here and see, is this closer to this number or is it closer to this number? Right, it's on this side of my number line, so it's closer to 4,960. So it would round to that number. So now that we've been doing those big numbers, let's try a smaller number. We're to the nearest 10. So I have the number 563. What do I do first? I underline the place value, which is the tens place. Okay. Now we're going to do our beginning point and our ending points again. Same thing. 563, we would start at 6 or 60, and the next 10 is 70. That's right. And this number would stay the same because we're talking about 563 is in between 560 and 570. 560 and 570. Okay, great. And what's our midpoint? Remember, the middle of 10 is 5, so this would be 565. Great. So now we're going to put 563 on our number line. 560 1, 562, 563. So it will go right there. Now, what side is it on? It's on this side of my number line, or this half, so it's closer to 560. So 563 would round to 560. Okay, now, we've been doing all of this hard work, but now for the easy one. I saved the easiest for the last. The number 47. Now, we're going to round this to the nearest 10, right? I cannot round this to the nearest 100 or the nearest 1,000 because it doesn't have any hundreds or thousands. So this number, really the only option would be to round to the nearest 10. The 4 is in the tens place. So we talked about the two values. So we would keep our 4 or 40, and the next 10 is 50, okay? So our numbers would be 40 and 50. What's our center point? Can you guess? Well, I know it's 5 because it's a 10. So it's 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 45 would be my center point. Now I'm going to count up to 47, 45, 46, 47, and it's closer to 50. So this number rounds to 50 to the nearest 10. Okay, so now that you're experts at rounding, and even if you're not an expert, we still have lots of practice. So what we're going to do is take a number and we're going to round it to the nearest 10, to the nearest 100, and to the nearest 1,000. Kind of like we were doing in the previous lesson, but now we have one more number we can round to. So let's write this number down, 2,784. First things first, right? We need to mark it on our number line. So our beginning and our ending. Okay, I want you to go ahead and do that and mark your center point. I want you to pause the video and I want you to figure out where to put this on your number line. It depends, right? I want you to put it on your number line if you were going to round to the nearest 10. So you need to put these numbers that are the closest tens. So a hint is to go ahead and underline the tens place like this. So remember, this is the number that's going to stay the same and then go up by 110. Go ahead and pause and try to put that on your number line. Okay, so we know that this is going to be 2,780, and the next 10 is 2,790. Good. Our midpoint or center point is 2,785 because we're skipping 10. So between 80 and 90 is 85. So 2,785. Very good. Now to mark 2,784, I think it's going to go right here because this is 785. 2,784. I could check it by counting and skipping along. Is this closer to this side or this side? It's on this half of my number line. So it's going to round to 2,780. Good. Now go ahead and pause the video and you're going to take this number and round to the nearest 100. Okay, so you want to erase your number line. Erase, 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 and we have to start over because every number line is unique to what we're rounding to. Okay, so this is going to look different for our 100. So I'm going to underline my hundreds place, which is the digit 7. And go ahead and pause your video and try to fill out your number line and see if you can figure out what it rounds to the nearest 100. Okay, so we have 700 and the next 100 is 800. Right? And we keep this number in the front. So by doing this, I know that I start at 2,700 and my ending point or my next 100 would be 2,800. Right? Good. And my midpoint, because we're counting by hundreds, is the midpoint is 50 because the midpoint between 700 and 800 is 750 or 2,750. So now I'm going to put this number, my original number on my number line, 2,784, and that would go here, 50, 60, 70, 80. It would go somewhere right here, 2,784, and I can see that it's closer to 2,800. So rounding this to the nearest hundred is 2,800. Very good. Now, I want you to erase your number line. Okay, and now we're going to do to the nearest thousand. So let's erase this and erase your number line. We have to have a fresh slate for every number we're rounding to. We're not rounding off of these numbers. We're going back to our original number. And we're going to round to the nearest thousand, so we're going to underline the thousands place, which is the digit 2. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try that. Okay, so 2,784 is in between 2,000 and 3,000. And the midpoint of 1,000 is 500. So my midpoint here, my center point is 2,500. So 2,784 I know is bigger than 2,500. So we have 500, 600, 700, 800. So 2,784 would go about right there. And it's on this side of my number line. So I know that that number is closest to, or will round to, 3,000. Okay, well, how do you feel about today? I hope it was great. The best part is that tomorrow's lesson, we will be practicing rounding to tens, hundreds, and thousands. So I will see you for the next lesson.